This Cessna plane was passing over the Kalahari Desert. 5 people sitting in it were embarking on a memorable journey of their lives. Viewing the sights of wildlife and the desolate desert from the sky is truly a privilege granted to only a few. But this beautiful journey was soon to become the darkest event of their lives. In the heart of the Kalahari, where human habitation is impossible, a sudden issue arose in their aircraft, leading the pilot to perform an emergency crash landing. Welcome back, once again to Ali Farhat Videos. Viewers, the Kalahari Desert, situated in South Africa, covering an area of 900,000 square kilometers, is considered to be the 6th largest desert in the world. It is not as dry as the African Sahara, and that is why there are 320 different types of wildlife here. When talking about predatory animals, among them are lions, cheetahs, and wild dogs, along with African elephants, those who tolerate no one within their territory. To see this wildlife, people from all over the world go for desert safari in South Africa, because this desert is so vast that it is shared among 3 countries in South Africa. Among them, Botswana holds the largest share of the Kalahari Desert. In the capital of Botswana, Gaborone, the executive director of a courier company, Carl du Plessis, chartered a private plane. While showcasing the magnificent views of the Kalahari Desert to his friends, he intended to take them to the village named Mon, located 600 kilometers away. The purpose of their trip was to cover a business event along with adventure. On this aerial journey, his friends Mike Nikolic and his wife Lynette Nikolic, along with Neb Grayarak and the aircraft's pilot, Costa Marcon Donados, were also present. The aircraft was a twin-engine Cessna 414, and these 5 individuals boarded it with excitement. As the plane took off, it was flying over the Kalahari towards Mon. The journey was supposed to take 2 hours, but after just 1 hour, Lynette, who was already quite nervous, spotted an oil leak from one of the plane's wings. At first, she thought it was normal, but later she couldn't shake off her concerns and decided to share the issue with her husband. When informed, pilot Costa took precautionary measures and shut down the engine from which the oil leak was occurring. According to the pilot, there was no danger in this, because the Cessna 414 still had 1 engine remaining. Because the scorching heat in the African desert makes the air here very thin and dry. For this reason, the power of both engines was required to maintain the plane's altitude. The plane was now slowly descending. In the emergency, the pilot contacted the Gaborone control tower. But it was their misfortune that the radio had also stopped working in the middle of the Kalahari. Now the only way to save the ship was to land it in a straight place by itself. This plane was at a low altitude, that's why the pilot had to find a landing strip soon. The pilot could see nothing but small rocks and bushes below, meaning there was no plane surface. Now there was only one option left, and that was to save their own lives. The pilot asked everyone to get into brace position and crash-landed the plane in the middle of the bushes. Before the crash land, the passengers sitting inside only remembered that when they got very close to the ground, they saw several herds of animals running away. In a few minutes, when everyone regained consciousness, there was only smoke and fire all around. Lynette's hand was burnt, and Neb Grayarak seemed to have suffered lung damage as he was struggling to breathe. Then, everyone together managed to get Neb out of the plane and placed him upright with the support of a tree. Apart from these 2, the other 3 had no serious injuries. They had just managed to gather themselves when the fuel leaking from the plane caught fire, and the entire plane exploded with a powerful blast. Let me tell you here that every plane has an emergency transponder that sends the location of the plane to the control tower in case of radio failure. When the pilot confessed that the Cessna 414 didn't have an emergency transponder, it felt like the ground had disappeared from under their feet. This meant that in such a vast desert, no one knew their location anymore. In a remote area of the Kalahari, these individuals were stranded among the trees, where they had nothing left to drink or eat. It was very important to get these two to the hospital as soon as possible, because they were hanging between life and death. Everyone hoped that a rescue team would arrive soon and extract them from there. But the rescue team would only come when they knew about their situation. Even if the rescue team begins searching for them in this wilderness without a specific location, it could take them several days to reach here. Meanwhile, the day began to fall and they started a bonfire using the fire of the plain. All night the sounds of bloodthirsty animals kept coming to them from the bushes. But maybe it was the bonfire that kept the animals away. Now the second day had begun. But there was no sign of the rescue team anywhere in sight. The condition of all five was getting worse. Due to dehydration, their throats had become dry. At dawn, they started drinking the dew on the leaves. But after drinking a few drops, the sun began to rise and the dew was disappeared. In the meantime, they heard the sound of an aircraft from a distance. Hoping that the rescue team had arrived, they gazed at the sky with anticipation. They saw a passenger plane passing directly overhead. They emitted smoke, made noises, but all was in vain, as it was almost impossible to notice them from such a great height. Now they were seeing their death right there. Stranded here, they would either die of hunger and thirst, or if they managed to get out, they might become prey to the animals' hunger. Finally, Executive Director Carl and the pilot decide to seek help in this dangerous desert. This decision was very dangerous, but there was no other option left. In search of help, they left their injured companions behind and set off. The second day was also coming to an end. At the crash site, Lynette and Neb's condition was further getting worse. The scorching heat that persisted throughout the day had further dehydrated them. On the other hand, despite walking all day, Carl and the pilot had not found any sign of water. On the second night, it suddenly rained. However, it was so short-lived that the injured individuals at the crash site couldn't collect water in anything. 2 days had passed since the plane crash. Carl and pilot Costa continued to walk in the desert and bushes, but there was no chance that they would see a person or a body of water. Now they began to doubt whether they were even going in the right direction or not. On the other hand, at the crash site, Neb started experiencing panic attacks due to extreme dehydration and lung damage, because he had been standing upright for the past 2 days. He decided to venture alone into the jungle and shortly afterward, he found rainwater collected in a hole of a tree trunk. It was hardly even a glass of water which everyone shared and drank. The third and fourth days were spent by everyone as if they had given up and were just waiting for their death. Lynette's wound was covered with worms, while Carl and pilot Costa, on the other hand, had been walking continuously for the past 4 days. It was also a miracle that without experience in the African bushes, they hadn't encountered any wild animals for prey so far. At the end of the 5th day, Carl and the pilot saw the roof of a hut in the distance. Initially, they thought it might be their imagination, as they had experienced similar false hopes along the way before. It turned out to be an actual hut, inside of which a girl was sitting. Seeing this, a renewed sense of hope surged within them. They quenched their thirst first there, and then used the radio to relay the entire ordeal to their control tower. The rescue team was already looking for them in the Kalahari, but due to not knowing the exact location, they were searching for them in other parts of the desert. On the morning of the 6th day after the crash, as the breath of all 3 friends was nearly fading at the crash site, the sound of a helicopter seemed to breathe new life into them. Finally, the rescue team had reached the crash site. Survivors of this plane crash say that the arrival of the rescue team just a few seconds before death is no less than a miracle. The decision of Carl and pilot Costa to leave their friends behind and seek help turned out to be a truly wise choice. All the people involved in the accident survived. But 2 years later, the pilot lost his life in another plane crash. I hope you will like and share this video of Ali Farhat. Thank you so much for your kind comments. See you in next awesome video.